Picture this, you are on a long road trip with your friends. You pull over to the side of the road to stretch your legs, maybe grab some fresh air. Suddenly, your friends just drive off and leave you there. Sure, they eventually realize their mistake and come back to get you, but it immediately begs a couple of massive questions. First, what kind of friends are they to do that in the first place? And second, what kind of person are you to just get back in the car and keep going on a trip with them? What if something terrible had happened to you while you were left alone on the side of that road? Well, believe it or not, that exact dynamic is the core emotional anchor of The Devil's Mouth. By the time the credits roll, it's honestly up to you to decide whether the giant man-eating shark is the main villain of the story or if it's the completely toxic friends, especially characters like Kate. Going into this movie, I was entirely convinced it was going to be a complete disaster. We have all seen our fair share of bad low-budget shark movies, right? But to my absolute surprise, The Devil's Mouth turned out to be a pretty damn good film. There's a reason they say never judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a movie by its poster. The actual plot is as basic as it gets, but it's the execution where this film really shines. The story follows a group of friends who go on a vacation to Thailand. Trying to chase that ultimate adrenaline rush, they decide to go off the beaten path and swim in a secluded, infamous cave system known as the Devil's Mouth. Naturally, things go horribly wrong and they find themselves trapped and getting picked off by a shark. From that point on, it becomes a desperate story of survival. Who is going to make it out alive and who is going to end up as a shark bait? To sum it up in the simplest terms, it's a shark film, but it's a good shark film. The movie is an American survival thriller directed by Jeff Wadlow. Now let's be honest for a second. I definitely wouldn't recommend some of his most recent work like Imaginary to anyone. But this is also the exact same guy who gave us Truth or Dare, which actually served as one of the major inspirations for the massive Smile franchise. Because of that, he has nothing but respect from my side. I highly recommend Truth or Dare to anyone who loves watching fun, fast-paced horror films based on curses. Fortunately, Wadlow brought that exact same chaotic, entertaining energy to The Devil's Mouth. It's incredibly fun, highly thrilling, and most surprising of all, it is incredibly aesthetically pleasing. In fact, the entire first half of the film feels like a high-budget tourism ad for Thailand, and I mean that in the best way possible. The establishing shots of the various locations across Thailand are genuinely mesmerizing. If you are even simply thinking about planning a tropical vacation, these are the kinds of cinematic shots that will immediately make up your mind to book your flight. The country looks absolutely gorgeous on screen. That visual beauty carries right over into the cave system. The whole Devil's Mouth environment is visually stunning yet incredibly suffocating at the same time. It is the absolute perfect way to shoot a cave setting. The cinematography brilliantly highlights how nature can be breathtakingly beautiful and hopelessly dangerous all at once. When you combine that claustrophobia with a massive predator, the sequences of the shark attacks become genuinely thrilling. Some of the characters meet their end in such brutal, horrible ways that it actually makes you stop and wonder if the shark is acting out of some twisted sense of revenge. It almost feels personal. The action here isn't necessarily terrifying in a jump scare way, but it is deeply, genuinely thrilling. It's really impressive what the filmmaking team managed to achieve with these confined underwater sequences. If I had to point out a flaw, it would be the pacing in the middle. Even though the first half of the film is beautifully shot, the whole sequence where the group is exploring the caves with the help of their guide just takes up way too much time. Don't get me wrong, some of those shots are breathtaking and I love looking at them. However, it would have been much better for the overall tension if we had met the shark a little bit earlier in the runtime. I say this because right out of the gate, The Devil's Mouth set itself up as a no bullshit kind of film. It doesn't waste our time with 20 minutes of the characters sitting in a living room, planning the trip, packing their bags or boarding a plane. It's a movie that drops its characters right into the action. The film begins with them literally hiring a boat in the very first scene. Because the movie is so refreshingly straight to the point in the beginning, I was expecting to get to the shark attacks just as quickly. The delay in the caves, while pretty, slows down the momentum. But what keeps you engaged during that build-up is the chemistry between the characters. They are totally believable as a friend group. and they are genuinely enjoyable to watch on screen. I loved the natural flow of the conversation between them. It didn't feel like scripted movie dialogue. It felt like a real life group of friends just talking over each other. The characters themselves are also written to be very interesting and distinct. Take Kate for example. She is absolutely definitively going to be the most hated character in the entire movie for most viewers. But that is exactly the point. A huge amount of credit has to go to the actress Lana Condor because she did a fabulous job here. She brought this wild, chaotic, slightly toxic energy to the character that you can't look away from. Kate is specially written to pull a reaction out of the audience and maybe even trigger you a little bit with her selfishness. On the flip side, we have James, who acts as the voice of reason and the most sensible one of the bunch, right alongside our lead character, Charlie, played by Kathryn Newton. Watching the dynamic between these completely different personalities is highly entertaining. In several scenes, the survival decision they make and the way they treat each other will definitely provoke you to yell at your screen. At a certain point, their bickering might get a little bit annoying, but again, that's the staple of these kind of movies. You need that one character who becomes the ultimate catalyst for all the chaos and tragedy, and this film nails that trope. Overall, the performances from both the lead and the supporting cast are rock solid. Kathryn Newton works so perfectly as a modern scream queen. She absolutely carries the emotional weight of the whole film on her shoulders. She is already the most popular, recognizable face among the cast, and she proves exactly why she deserves to be the face of this movie. Once the horror actually kicks in, watching these characters swimming through the dark, exploring the submerged tunnels, gives you a great sense of dark adventure, and the whole final act, where they're desperately using whatever they can to survive the shark's relentless attacks, is top tier entertainment. Look, The Devil's Mouth is not some super serious, elevated, Oscar worthy piece of cinema, and absolutely nobody is expecting it to be. It was my casual late night weekend watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed the ride. Is it the greatest film in the aquatic horror genre? No, obviously not. Jaws is still safe. But is it a fun, thrilling and highly entertaining time? Absolutely yes. The solid performances, the believable chemistry between the toxic friends, the brutal shark attacks and the desperate fight for survival, it all just works. It's a really fun casual watch if you enjoy survival thrillers based around the ocean or claustrophobic underwater settings. I went in not expecting much at all, and I walked away having had a genuinely great time. So I highly recommend checking it out if you enjoy this genre. Alright, so that was the video guys. I really hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews and videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.